stories of the Bible, it's difficult to tell whether God is just describing something to me or he's telling me something I must do. For example, if you read Genesis chapter 13, when Abraham goes to the land of Egypt and he thinks his wife is very beautiful and somebody is going to take his wife from him, he makes a scheme with his wife Sarah and says, when we get to Egypt, tell people that you are my sister, you are my sister, I'm your brother. Now, when you read a story like that in the Bible, the question is, how do you deal with it? Is it just describing a situation that happened, or is telling you how to... Are you getting me? Now, people sometimes get confused because when they read the Bible, they don't know whether the Bible is describing something and telling it as it happened, or it is recommending something. So when we read that, is the Bible then telling us that, you know, when you are in tough situation, you don't know what to do, manufacture your own truth and save your skin? Is that what it's telling us? And somebody can take off and say, Abraham is the father of faith, and this is what he did, and we walk in the faith of Abraham. And therefore, when you are tied in a corner, just invent your own story. So when you're confronted with that, I'm just giving you an introduction to what I'm going to preach, just because I need to give you a background before I go into the text and teach on the restless ones. So when you confront such a thing, like Abraham telling a lie, or like Noah getting drunk, or like David taking somebody's wife and killing the man, you see the description of a human event. But then you have to find out, what is God prescribing? What is God's view about that? The fact that it's in the Bible and described in the Bible does not mean God prescribes it as how we should live our lives. And generally, for you to know whether what is prescribed, you don't just look at the incident, you look at the totality of Scripture to then determine what is God's attitude about lie, what is God's attitude about adultery, what is God's attitude about taking somebody's wife, whether you are a king, you are anointed, you are a man of God, a woman of God, a superman of God, a minor man of God. Do you have a right to take somebody's wife from them? Is there a grace on you that enables you to take wives? So I'm going to go into a story in the Bible, and that's why I had to talk about all that I've talked about and what we can learn from the story. And it's a very ancient story in the Bible, a story of Jacob and Esau. And there is a descriptive part of the story where God is telling us the story of conflict between two boys, twins, and who is going to be the leader and who is going to be serving under the other person. And as you read through the scriptures and how Jacob dealt with Esau and all of that, at a certain point you wonder, between Jacob and Esau, who is right? Who is doing the right thing? And you cannot tell it just from the story. You have to look at the larger scriptural position in order to determine what happens. Because later on in the New Testament, the book of Hebrews, chapter 12, Esau's actions are described as profane, and adulterous. So then you get to know that what is happening between the two boys, there is a prescriptive view of it. That means there's one of the ways that is more preferable to the other one. So what happens between Jacob and Esau is very simple. Rebekah is married to Isaac. For 20 years, they have no child. Then she gets pregnant. And she feels uncomfortable in her tummy. We always say women are pregnant in their tummy, although the tummy is where food goes to. But that's normal. In her tummy, she's feeling some way. And so she goes to God. She and her husband go to God and say, what's happening? And God says, something deep is happening inside of you. You have 2 boys inside of you. But the 2 boys are not just 2 boys. They are 2 kinds of people. And not only are they 2 kinds of people, they are 2 kinds of nations. So there are 3 things happening. Individuals, people, and nations are represented inside of you. And they are struggling. And he says, one is going to be head over the other. And he says that the older one is going to end up serving the younger one. And then they are born, they live their lives, and so on and so forth, go about their business. I don't know whether anybody told them this is how your future is going to be in life, that one of you is going to be head. But a time comes when Jacob and Esau have a negotiation, and Esau sells his birthright to Jacob for a bowl of meal. And they forget about it. It looks like nothing has happened until the time when Isaac is about to pass on the blessing. And in Isaac's mind, the blessing must go to Esau. And so he gets ready to pray for Esau, but he says, go and prepare a meal for me. I don't know why he said that. He could have blessed him straightforward. He complicated the issue, but, I can't blame him. So he says, go and prepare a meal for me. So whilst he's going out to the bush to prepare a meal, his wife had the instruction and went to tell Jacob, says, your father is about to turn the birthright over to your brother who sold the birthright to you 20 years ago. Your father is blind. He doesn't have a clue that things have changed. So I want you to go and prepare a meal, or I will prepare the meal for you because I know how to please your father. Prepare the right meal. Go and give it to your father and receive the blessing. And you know how the story goes. He receives the blessing. Jacob receives the blessing. Now, if you're watching it, you say, what kind of character is this? That's another story. That's not where I'm going. But after all of this happens, the blessing is gone to Jacob. Esau has no blessing. He's lived his life believing that he will be blessed, that it will be well with him, that God will favor him, and all of a sudden in this moment of destiny, he loses everything. So he comes back to his father, having obeyed his father's instruction, and he's told that the blessing is gone, and that's where I start my story. Genesis chapter 27, verse 30 to 34. Now it happened, as soon as Isaac had finished blessing Jacob, and Jacob had scarcely gone out from the presence of Isaac his father, that Esau his brother came in from his hunting. He also had made savory food and brought it to his father, and said to his father, let my father arise and eat of his son's game, that your soul may bless me. And his father Isaac said to him, who are you? So he said to him, I'm your firstborn Esau. Then Isaac trembled exceedingly and said, who? You can imagine what is going on here. Who? Where is the one who hunted game and brought it to me? I ate all of it before you came, and I have blessed him, and indeed he shall be blessed. I have blessed him, and indeed he shall be blessed. These guys took blessing seriously. They are not like men of God who bless you and take back the blessing and put it on another one. They understood spiritual authority, and they understood the irrevocableness of that authority. That when you pronounced it, you don't change it. You don't bless a person today and curse him tomorrow. Selah. Because, there are all kinds of people who bless people and curse them. And they say that they are fathers and they have the authority to bless and just remove the blessing and put it in another one. But Isaac understood the spirituality of blessing. That it's not just about me saying something, it's about God doing something. And God does not change his mind. So if I make God or I ask God to do something, I cannot go back to him and say, God, by the way, I ate the wrong meal. So he says, I have blessed him and he will be blessed. Verse 34, then when Esau heard the words of his father, he cried with an exceedingly great and bitter cry and said to his father, bless me also, O my father. In other words, you have the anointing. You can bless at will. You can do it. But his father told him, that's not how it's done. I can't just bless at will. I have blessed him, and that's it. And Esau cried, bless me too. Now we jump to verse 37. Then Isaac answered and said to Esau, indeed I have made him your master. What a word to hear. I have made you your master, and all his brethren I have given to him as servants. With grain and wine I have sustained him. What shall I do now for you, my son? And Esau said to his father, have you only one blessing, my father? Bless me also, O my father. And he lifted up his voice and wept. Do you have only one blessing? Not two blessings, not three blessings, not four blessings. Do you have any left over, dilapidated, discredited, antiquated, overlooked blessing? Whatever it is, give it to me. Now, I want you to watch something. This is a man who had the birthright and took it for granted and thought his life was going to be blessed, and now gets to the point where he's ready for anything. Just anything. Just any kind of blessing. So far as it's a blessing, I can take it and I can use it. Jacob has taken the blessing. Esau has nothing. He understood the agony of missed opportunities. When you wish you had something and you don't have it. He lifted up his voice, he cried. You can sense passion and hunger for a new opportunity. For the first time in his life, he had respect for little things. He had moved from abundance, and now he's ready for the littlest thing he can have. Sometimes abundance is a curse. Abundance is not always a blessing. That's why in the cycle of life, people who have little create much. Give much to their children, and their children waste it and create little. And the cycle starts all over again. The greatest, or the people who achieve the most in life, most of the time come from extreme deprivation. And the children of those who have achieved much don't achieve much. Because there has to be hunger in you to desire to be. When that hunger dies, you have nothing else left. And Esau moved from a person accustomed to abundance to a person who is ready to work with little. And I want you to listen to the blessing that his father pronounced on him. And the father had to pronounce a blessing on him that he's not pronounced on Jacob. He cannot tell him, you will be great, because he has already told Jacob, your brother will save you. He cannot tell him too, you will be great. He cannot tell him you will be master. He cannot tell him that, because these blessings are not just uttered at will. So he has to carve out a blessing that he didn't give to Jacob. And so I want you to listen to the blessing. Verse 39 to 40, Genesis chapter 27. Then Isaac his father answered and said to him, behold, your blessing shall be with the fatness of the earth, and the dew of the heaven from above. By your sword you shall live, and you shall serve your brother. And it shall come to pass, when you become restless, that you shall break his yoke from your neck. This is the blessing he blessed him with. The restless ones, the blessing of restlessness. The Amplified Bible says, then Isaac his father answered, your blessing and dwelling shall all come from the fruitfulness of the earth and from the dew of the heavens above. By your sword you shall live and serve your brother. But the time shall come when you will grow restive and break loose, and you shall tear his yoke from off your neck. There are two parts to this blessing. The first part talks about his dwelling and what he will live by. When the Bible talks about your dwelling, it has to be the environment he would live in. He says, your dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven. Basically, what you say is you will survive from the natural resources available to you. You will survive by the natural resources available to you. So wherever you are, whatever grows on the ground, it will be a blessing to you. If corn is growing, you will live by the corn. If it's wheat, you live by the wheat. Whatever is available, you can gather it. Because remember, he said, I've blessed your brother with the grain and with the wine. I can't bless you with grain, but I can bless you with survival. I can bless you with the fatness of the earth. I can bless you with natural resources. And wherever you are, whether it's oil in the land or gold in the land or diamond in the land, whatever you find in the earth, you can live by it. In other words, Esau has to be mindful of the environment he lives in, because his survival is linked with the resources available in the land he lives in. And he will live by the dew of heaven. On one level, the dew of heaven simply means just natural rainfall patterns. But at another level, it also means God's spiritual favor. The dew of heaven. Now, you would think that if a person is going to be so blessed with the fatness of the earth and the dew of heaven, that should be enough. But he also told him, you will live by the sword. In other words, you're going to learn to be a fighter. You're going to learn to fight. But he says, with the fatness of the earth, the dew of the earth, of the heavens, and your sword, you still will serve your brother. In other words, the fatness of the earth, the dew of heaven, and being able to fight is not enough to give you the victory. You're coming from behind. Sometimes, when I look at the African condition, we think if we find more resources, we'll do well. We didn't do well with gold.